It just kind of started with a footprint. You know, when you become aware, you kind of start looking for that stuff more and more. We started to find just several different footprints, different sizes and things like that, kind of all around the farm. I mean, we've just had about everything happen since then, from, you know, the Bigfoot activity to paranormal activity to even seeing, you know, what I would call a UFO. I know that there's some big fancy new name for them. I just call them UFOs. We've seen a couple of those, you know, in the sky around here too. So just, you know, a ton of different activities since I last talked to you.
I'd like to welcome Kerry to Bigfoot Crossroads. Kerry has been on a former podcast I was involved with, Bigfoot Outlaw Radio. I was part of that interview, and we talked to her years ago. And over the years, we've kind of stayed in touch and everything. And she had some really interesting stuff going on at her place. Now, as of recently, I've learned about some even stranger stuff going on at your place. Kerry, welcome. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good, Matt. Nice to be back.
Yeah. Just to catch everybody up to speed, let's kind of dial it back a bit. When did things start happening around your place that caught your attention?
Probably back in 2013 or 14. It just kind of started with a footprint. And, you know, when you become aware, you kind of start looking for that stuff more and more. And we started to find just several different footprints, different sizes and things like that, kind of all around the farm. And then it went from the footprints to finding the horse's manes braided, to, I mean, we've just had about everything happen since then, from, you know, the Bigfoot activity to paranormal activity to even seeing, you know, what I would call a UFO. I know that there's some big fancy new name for them according to, you know, Skinwalker, but I just call them UFOs. But we've seen a couple of those, you know, in the sky around here too. So just, you know, a ton of different activities since I last talked to you.
Now, do you know the history of your place there?
I do not know the history, but, you know, being in Florida, I'm sure that, you know, we're probably very rich in Native American history and culture. I don't know if we're sitting on any kind of old Indian village. I know that there was one fairly close to the farm here. As far as what was on our farm in the past, I am not sure.
How large is your place?
My place is approximately 80 acres.
Okay, so pretty good chunk of land.
Yeah.
And whenever you first got it, what year was that?
We purchased the farm in 2012.
Okay, so the footprint showed up pretty quickly.
Yes, it did.
And so
it did.
You find the footprint. What did you think at first when you first started seeing these prints? Were you just immediately, oh my God, that's a Bigfoot?
No, actually my hired man at the time sent me the picture and said it was on the neighbor's racetrack. There was just one print on the racetrack out of all things crazy. And he had sent me the photo, and I thought he called and said, oh, the neighbors have a Bigfoot track. And I thought he was joking because, you know, I think at that time, you know, we were watching, you know, I think Finding Bigfoot might have been big back then. And I thought he was joking, you know. So, gosh, he showed me the picture and I'm like, oh my gosh, you weren't joking. And then we just started to find more footprints just around and randomly. And then that kind of also escalated to the house that he lived in. Something would actually slap the wall of the house and knock on the windows. And it just wasn't them that experienced that. After they left, I had another little gal move down in there, and she had the same experience with the house being slapped and the windows being tapped on.
What did they say about that kind of activity?
You know, I kind of had told her about what was going on here on the farm. You know, she was cool with it. I told her, you know, that I thought we could have a possible Bigfoot, and that there was some paranormal activity going on. And she actually experienced the paranormal activity as well. Up in the barn, she would hear kids laughing. She'd hear footsteps. You know, she heard her name called a couple of times and nobody was there. So she did have some experiences like that, as well as, you know, the one night she got home she was on call at a vet clinic. So she got home late. I think they must have called her in for surgery. So it was about 1:30, 2 in the morning. She parks where she usually does, gets out of her pickup truck, and she heard a growl. And she was like, well, what the heck was that? And so, you know, total redneck, goes back into the backseat of her truck, pulls out a spotlight, and is looking back by her dog kennels because that is where the growl came from. And the dogs were quiet. And she saw a red eye shine behind the kennel at about 7-8 foot up. And nothing scares this gal. And she went running to the house. She's like, I don't know what that was. There's red eye shine. I've never seen red eye shine before. And that really was the first time I'd ever heard her being spooked about this all. Wow. Yeah, she had that happen. My renter, who lives in the very front of the property, in just a smaller home, he has the same experiences. Something will, you know, tap on his house or slap the house and windows all the way around the house, and the dogs will bark and go crazy, but when he looks, he doesn't see anything.
You know, we talk about slapping on houses and things like that a lot whenever it comes to Bigfoot. And I still have to think, okay, if you're experiencing that yourself and Bigfoot's not on your head, you're obviously thinking, this has to be a person pranking me. But who in their right mind would sneak onto somebody's property in the middle of the night and bang on the outside of the house and run off? It just doesn't make any sense.
Right. And that is exactly what they thought. They thought my renter Frank actually thought it was his friend from across the road pulling a prank on him. And he's like, okay, that's not funny, you know, and it wasn't. And that happens still quite often. He'll get the house beat on and look around and nobody's there. But the weird thing is nothing shows up on the security cameras either.
Really?
So, yes, and he can let the dogs out in the yard and they'll bark and they'll carry on and nothing. He sees nothing. So, you know, I don't know. You know, I know that they say, yeah, I guess I'm kind of torn. Do they cloak? Do they not cloak? I don't know, because some of the stuff I've seen here really makes me wonder. I think I shared with you the pictures of, it was almost like a fog or a mist that came in. And it came in so rapidly that it did trigger the motion camera at the one barn. And it went from seeing this big blob of fog rolling in to which almost looked like a Bigfoot figure walking out of it. You know, you could almost actually see a figure to, you know, turning into a bright light orb. So I just kind of look at all of that stuff. You know, we do have the orbs here as well now. My hired man has seen orbs on several occasions. I have had, you know, like a I wouldn't say it was like the cool white light, more of an orange light. I will look out my window sometime early in the mornings and I will see, an orange like glow, and it's just not headlight color. And I talk to my renter, and that's the same color he'll occasionally see when, out of his window, it will glow the orange colors. So yeah, just a lot of really strange activity happening here.
Are you seeing the orbs in the same general area each time?
That's hard to say. Maybe in the same general area along the road. Like, he's seen them in the trees by the road. He's seen them in the trees down by the stud barn. They've been in the trees down by the other barn, and they've been up in my yard. So, as far as the orbs, yes, I would say the same general area. And as far as like the figure that stepped out of the fog or mist, I had another image caught on the camera that looked like a figure walking in the same area. So, that kind of stuff seems to be in the same areas.
When did the orb stuff start happening?
The orb stuff started happening that we noticed it, I guess I would say, probably in like 2020 to 21, where my hired man walks every morning, and he was walking up to the top barn and about 5 a.m, and he saw light, and his wife would leave to go to work early, and he was thinking, well, how can her headlights be making that light up in that tree, because your mind doesn't process what you're actually seeing right away when it's something so odd. And then he thought, well, shoot, it's not headlights. And so he's looking for a helicopter and listening for a helicopter, and there was nothing because it looked like 2 spotlights at that point. Well, they came out of the tree and they circled around him, and then they took off. And those were probably the bright light orbs, more of the white color. And then he's seen that, and he's also seen red orbs. Backing
up just for a second, you mentioned the braiding of the manes. And that is something that, and we spoke about this the first time I talked to you.
Right.
That was something that we had mentioned publicly. Because it was something that we had heard about and people had reported it, and a few of us had witnessed it.
Right.
And we kind of got made fun of. And there's still people out there who just think, no way, that doesn't happen. That's not a thing. You're a horse person.
Oh, yeah.
This is what you do professionally.
Right.
I'm sure that you know what a wind tangle looks like on a horse's mane.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So how was this different, and what was the circumstances around you discovering the braided manes?
Well, the one filly that had the braided mane, I'd gone out there, and I was just going to brush everybody's mane out, went out to the paddock with a brush, and I'm looking going, oh my gosh, did we band her mane? Because sometimes we'll band it with rubber bands, to kind of make it nice if we want to do a video or pictures. And I thought, gosh, I don't remember doing that. And I get up to her and I'm like, gosh, it's braided. And I'm like, I definitely do not remember braiding her mane. And then I was like looking at the braids, and I thought, well, they're really sloppy, but and I'm like looking for rubber bands to take the braids out. There weren't any rubber bands. They were tied off. And I thought, well, now that's really weird. And the other one that was really strange was my renter had a boarding pony, and one morning, and this happened, I believe in the barn, one morning they went in and his forelock had been braided, and there was no rubber band or anything holding that braid either. And nothing showed up on the security camera. But yet in the morning that pony had a braid in his forelock.
And was there any noticeable change in behavior of the horses or the temperament?
No, not at all with the gilding. Not anything. And really not with the filly. I mean, it's a yearling filly. They're kind of, sassy anyways. But no, not really any change in them. So
did the braiding take place in the same barn as the paranormal activity?
The braiding did, actually, yes. Yes.
Has anybody on the property had a physical sighting of a Bigfoot?
We did have some ghost hunters down here, and one of the ghost hunters swears she saw one. It was kind of standing down by the barn that has the most activity, and they were it was really kind of an odd situation that she even saw it. I want to say that they were down there and there was a noise at one end of the barn. So most of them went running to that end of the barn. Well, she went out the front side of the barn, and that's when she said she saw it. So she was the only one in the group that saw it. And there was pressed down grass the next morning, nothing that we could really cast or anything like that. But she said when it saw her, when it realized that, it had been seen, it took off. And it took off running up the hill towards my house. But then we also have that 100 acres of woods close to my house, too, where I'm sure that they kind of come and go.
Yeah. It's just really interesting to me because oftentimes a lot of Bigfoot activity, whenever it's occurring at somebody's property, such as yourself, they'll think that their property's haunted. Mm-hmm. The banging on the house and things missing and showing up in different spots and, things of that nature. Mm-hmm. But then you have a situation where we started out talking about the Bigfoot stuff going on at your place, but then you do have paranormal activity happening. Yes,
we do. And another thing like that down in that barn, nothing bad. It doesn't feel ominous or anything like that. But, gosh, I hate to even say this. There's a barn apartment in there and we do rent it out. And a lot of the people that have stayed there have actually said that they've heard people walking in the barn at night. They've heard people talking, but they can't really make out what they're saying. And they have also heard children laughing, and it sounded like they could have possibly been singing.
Did you post any video of the barn stuff?
I'm trying to remember. Maybe I could have maybe some orbs that we caught in the barn or some pictures. Possibly some EVPs that we had gotten from the barn. And what I find really interesting too, and I've got this, I think on YouTube, the very first paranormal investigators that came out here, it was a psychic and then a guy that just did the paranormal. And we had set up, oh gosh, what's that called? Is it a ghost box that does the sweeping?
Yeah.
With the radio signals?
Yeah, a ghost box.
Yeah. They had set one of those up in the stallion barn. And we were so excited because he said, is anyone here or something like that? And I swore I heard a hi, but, or a yes. And then, but when I went back and listened to it, before that even happened, I heard Bigfoot.
Really?
And I'm like, yes, that was the first thing I heard on the ghost box was Bigfoot. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was crazy. And since then, I'd uploaded what's called Ghost Tube onto my cell phone. And I've been down in that barn and I'll get Bigfoot. My phone will actually say Bigfoot. It will also say aliens. And I'm like, okay, this is crazy, And actually, one day I was down there. It was the middle of the day. I was washing a horse, and my phone was sitting out on my golf cart, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, did it just say Bigfoot?" And so I went and looked. It did. I ran down. Frank, you're not going to believe this. It said Bigfoot. Blah blah blah. I said, now if I go back up there and it starts to say UFOs or aliens, I'm out. And I get back up there and it does. And this is supposed to be a really good app. when the ghost hunters were here, my app was picking up the same words that their expensive apps were. So I don't think that it's triggered by any kind of algorithms or listening to what I'm saying or doing or anything like that. Because there's times that I've sat in my house before and mentally thought something, and the ghost box would say it. It would pick it up.
I mean, that would be fun to experiment with.
Yeah, it was. And what was really cool is when the ghost hunters were out, seeing it, register the hot spots with their equipment and pretty much say almost word for word what theirs were saying at the same time.
So did something happen to cause you to think, hey, I should have some paranormal investigators out? Or how'd you reach that decision?
We just kind of wanted to know what was going on with the place, like we know we've got something going on out here. We just kind of want to figure out what it is, who it is. And because it's been going on for a while, it actually started drawing circles on the walls of the barn. We'd come in there and there'd be a circle drawn, and it was just like, wow, this just kind of happened overnight. And oh gosh, that was kind of getting, it was just, I don't even know what to say.
A circle drawn on the walls?
Yeah, they were drawing circles on the walls, on the stalls. And
with what? How are they drawing them?
It was almost like an ash.
I mean, that
it was like an ash/dirt substance, and they were circles, and some of them had squiggles through them. So I've got pictures of that too. And then it looked like it was starting to draw maybe a face. So we've got a couple faces drawn down there. So I don't know if they were trying to communicate with us that way. We had a gal that was riding across the road, and oh gosh, she was into I don't even know what it's called, all the shaman stuff with the crystals and this and that, and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm just totally drawn to your place. Can I come over and walk around it and just hang out? And I said, well, sure. So we all kind of walked around with her. She gave us each a crystal to hold on to, and she had an amethyst on a chain. And it was actually kind of pulling her here and pulling her there. And we get up top, the amethyst actually went flying off the chain. The chain broke. And she was like, I've never had that happen, So she never came back. So I don't know if that was good or bad. But so we just buried the necklace where the amethyst landed right up top.
What did the psychic say?
Oh gosh, the psychic thought that we definitely have a bunch of different. Well, of course, they are thinking they're spirits around here. Some of them thought we have Native American spirits. Some thought we had some soldiers. They felt like the presence of children. So it just all kind of made sense to me with, hearing children laughing, because we did catch that on a couple of our EVPs as well. And it was when we were actually talking about children, we asked the questions, do you like it when, the kids are in the barn? And that's when we heard the laughter.
Why is it always laughing children?
I don't know.
Why does it have to be something super creepy like that?
I know. So, yep. Well, and another reason we wanted to get somebody out here was, Frank was starting to have a pretty hard time with things like he'd take a load of laundry out, put it on a table in the tack room to fold it, like fly masks or leg wraps or stuff like that. And he said he just had put it on the table and had gone out of the tack room for a second, came back in, and it was all scattered. He'd walked into the tack room a few times and felt like somebody was pushing him. So it was starting to get a little physical. So we really kind of wanted to have that investigated. And one night we were down there, and I had my cell phone on doing a little video, and, he's like, oh, I'm hearing things. And I didn't hear it at the time, but we went back and listened, and we heard it, hey, buddy, as clear as day. So I don't know what that one was about, but so that kind of was pretty crazy. He's got a definite British accent, so it wasn't him, and we were the only two in the barn.
Has anything gone into areas where you felt concerned for your safety, or has it all been pretty benign type stuff?
It's been pretty benign type stuff. But when they started kind of, when he thought that they kind of pushed him forward, that was kind of concerning.
Right. What about with the Bigfoot stuff? Has that ever gone to an area where they kind of pushed their limits too far?
There was one time I had a hired man that, was having relationship troubles. So basically he was in the doghouse, and so he stayed in my big living quarter horse trailer. And he woke up to the trailer being pushed. It was actually rocking. So they were something was pushing it back and forth, and he woke up and he sat up in the gooseneck. There was a bed in the gooseneck, and was just like, what the heck? And it stopped rocking, but something walked by and slapped the window of the gooseneck. And that trailer is like 22,000 pounds, like I can't budget,
right.
And I know that he was kind of spooked about that whole thing. And I know something happened because my dogs at the time, they were barking, and usually they'll bark if there's a coyote or whatnot in the yard. And they were out of control barking, to the point I was looking for my spotlight to go out and see what the heck they were barking at. And then they stopped. And that was about that. Well, that was the exact same time that this was going on with the horse trailer. And, if I was to look down towards the barn, I'd see the trailer.
So you have the barns, you have the trailer, you have the various, houses, and then you have your house.
Mm-hmm.
Are things happening at all the locations? Are you having stuff happen to your house as well?
Yes. I have stuff happen in my house. It got to be pretty bad. I just was kind of like, okay, whoever this is, you got to stop, because you're really starting to scare me. But one night I was laying in bed, and right at that stage we're about to drift to sleep, I thought I heard a lady and two guys kind of talking, but they talk. It was really, really fast talking, almost like vibrations, but I could make out what they were saying. And I thought, I'm going to have to remember what they're saying. And then all of a sudden I woke up, and I'm like, well, that was weird. And then a few nights later, it felt like something blew on my cheek, and I thought, but my dogs were still asleep. So I thought, well, I must be okay. And then after the next time it happened, something blew directly in my ear. And now that scared me. I was like, okay, this has got to stop.
Yeah. I would
absolutely
think so.
Got to stop. Yeah. And then the back bedroom, I was staying in that one for a while, and the darn ghost tube. I just had it playing back there, and this is before. I don't really play it in my house much anymore, but it said closet and it said portrait. Well, when I'm sitting in that bed, there's a closet right in front of me, and to the left of it, there's this big horse portrait. So I got out of that room. I was like, I'm not going to be in this room anymore. And when we did a little bit of investigating, that's the bedroom we sat in, and we saw a figure kind of peek. It was in the bathroom, but you could see almost shoulders and a head kind of peeking around the bathroom doorway frame.
Yeah, you sent me a video of that.
Yeah. And so I don't go in that bedroom often. I just kind of clean and go, I just don't like to be over there.
I know people are going to listen to this and be freaking out wanting to see the stuff, but the video that you showed me of the figure in the bathroom,
mm-hmm.
I mean, I have no explanation. I've got nothing.
I have nothing either, but I was so thankful that I was filming her cell phone when it was going off. She's like, oh my gosh, did you see that? And I'm like, yes, I think I've got it on video. And that was just, I mean, stuff like that happens here. I mean, at that point, I wasn't even really fazed by it. It was just like, oh, I mean, we just kind of carried on and kept on filming. And yeah, you know, I watch some of these ghost hunter shows and things like this, and I'm like, oh, hold my beer. You know, so yeah. But you know what really scares me is not knowing for sure if it's like a Bigfoot we've got here or a dog man. I think I sent you the video of those howls we had in December. I have no idea what those howls were. I just know I've got dogs here. They didn't want to be outside. The kennel that a gal has a kennel of dogs behind the farm. They're always barking, and they were quiet. You could hear this thing, and it woke me up. And I'm like, what on earth is making all that racket? And I don't want to find out.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Was that the only time that you've heard the howling?
Yeah, that's been the only time I've heard howling like that. I mean, there's been times at night I'm like, did I just hear that, or a howl, or it won't be continuous howls like that was. It might just be like a longer howl, but that was the only time I heard that.
Let's talk about the other video stuff that you sent me. My only thought is UFO next to the house.
I have no idea what that was. I never go out at night, right, anymore. And that night I thought, well, I'm going to go down. We had just decorated for Halloween, and I wanted to go by the stallion barn because we put some lights up, with rotating little ghosts around, and I wanted to make sure those were working. And then I wanted to go down and look at the front gate and just see how it looked and if everything was, on and working the way it should, and look at the lights and stuff. And down at the front gate, and I'm looking up by my house going, what's that light in that pasture back there? And I thought, well, shoot, the neighbors must be out, maybe driving their four-wheeler out or doing something. And so I'm driving up the hill, and the light is still there. And I am like, well, what on earth? So I started to tape it. I'm like, well, what if it's not the neighbors? It looks kind of like in the woods back there. And if it's somebody like illegally there or doing whatever, at least I'll have it on video if I need to get a truck or do whatever, because it looked like, it was just a bright light. I didn't know if it was headlights or what. So I get up to the house, and I'd been filming all this time, get up to the house, park my golf cart, turn it off. Look, it's gone. It's completely gone. And I thought, well, they must have turned their lights off or something happened because it's gone. And I sat around and I waited for a little bit, but nothing. So my ghost hunter friend, the one that, was here, filming the ghost in the bathroom, I sent her the video, and I'm like, what do you think of this light? And she calls and she's like, the light? What do I think of the light? What did you think of the gosh, I don't even know what you'd call it, walking down, next to your driveway in the woods there. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, there's a figure. And I'm like, no. And so I looked, and sure enough, there was a figure, and it was walking. And to me, it either looked like it was two-legged, it was bipedal, and I couldn't tell if it was like a Bigfoot or a dog man, but it kind of had that look to it. And I didn't even see it because I was so focused on the light. So that was very unnerving.
Yeah. Yeah. You also sent me that video. And there is a bipedal humanoid figure walking away from the area of the light, it looks like. Mm-hmm. And judging by the position that you're taking the video, it does not appear as though you saw it or that you were focused on it in any way.
No.
It just happens to come into frame.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, I mean, even when I sent that to my friend, I was like, look at the light, what's this light? And she's the one that saw it. And then, like I said, I got a little spooked after that one. And then it just kind of makes me sit there and think, what are these things? Are they interdimensional? Are they dropped off by UFOs? I don't know. I mean, I hear so many different stories. Oh, they're apes. They're the North American ape. And then you hear some guy, oh, no. I've seen them and I associate them with orbs. Okay, so we've got the orbs. And, oh, no, I think UFOs drop them off. Okay, well, now I'm like, well, I saw a UFO. And it's not the first one I've seen here. It just happened to be landed and I saw the lights. The other one I saw that I did a video of, it was actually up in the sky.
And what did that one look like?
Just a bright light, the white light again. It was small, but when I actually tried to get a picture off the video, it kind of looked diamond shaped, the way the light reflected. I don't know if that was just because my camera, so I was doing it off my cell phone because I'm like, what on earth is that up in the sky? Because it wasn't really moving much, and then all of a sudden it disappeared.
So other than the strange fog mist with possible figure in that, have your security cameras caught anything?
We just kind of, I don't know. It's like, it just became such an everyday thing. We just aren't even watching the security cameras much anymore. But, that's the fog that came in. The camera was motion activated and it took the pictures. And I do have cameras that I use during foaling season. They're on the stalls, and I'm half scared to move them around and see what's outside at night because I don't know if I would want to know.
Yeah, I get it.
Gosh.
I get it.
Yeah, I just don't know. I've had game cameras and it seems like one of them caught a light. So we've had, that happen on the game cameras. Other than that, we've just, had, small animals like your raccoons, your coyotes that look like maybe a bobcat and a fox, little things like that.
So you've got, if we go back to the beginning, you've got normal, quote unquote, normal Bigfoot activity.
Yeah.
You've got the orbs.
Yep.
You've got the UFOs. You've got the figure that seems like it's coming away from possibly a UFO or an orb of some kind. And then you have the paranormal stuff. You've got the EVPs. You've got the disembodied voices. You've got
the footsteps, the laughing. Yep.
You've got all this stuff going on.
Yeah.
At your location. So
right.
Is it, and there's no right or wrong answer, and I know you don't know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. Is all of this stuff connected, or is it all just happening in the same area for some reason?
Oh, I guess I'm going to have to go with, I believe it's all connected. I do. I think that it is all connected. I've not done a whole lot of research on it, but I've heard that there are connections between it all. And at first I would be like, yeah, right. And now I would believe it just because of my own personal experiences. I would definitely believe that there's a connection. Could there be, the paranormal activity due to, the Native American presence, and possibly the Bigfoot, being drawn to that? I don't know. What would cause, the UFO and the activity here on the farm? What is drawing them here? I don't know. What draws them to the other places? I don't know. Do we have, are we sitting on, kind of an electromagnetic field that they're attracted to? Could there be a portal somewhere on the farm? I don't know. I don't have an answer to why us. But do I think it's connected? Absolutely.
Have you done any, I don't know. I'm just asking, any mineral surveys on the property or anything like that?
We have not. It's Florida, so I think that we do have just a lot of rock here. As far as mineral, oh gosh, I want to say limestone would be the biggest rock we would have. Or, I don't know if limestone or lime is a mineral, but that's what makes the grass here so good, and why people, chose the Ocala area for their horse farms, because of the concentration of mineral. I guess there could be the mineral in the soil here because of the limestone. There's only 2 other places on Earth that have that type of soil. One place is in England, and then I believe they said the other was in Kentucky, maybe the Lexington area, and that's also a big, obviously, racehorse farm area.
Also a big paranormal area.
Yes.
Just coincidentally,
Right. But you've also got a lot of Civil War activity up in that area.
I'm sure. Do you have any power lines near your property?
We do. The 100 acres that's next to us has a big power line cut. I know. It just gets better, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. We're just going through the checklist here.
I know, right?
Any abandoned old wells or graveyards on the property? Should we just go there?
The neighbor supposedly has a graveyard.
Sure. Why not?
I know. And I'm not sure where it's at in location to my farm, but I know maybe 2 years ago, a gentleman and his elderly dad stopped out here, and they were looking for the graveyard, and I'm like, well, it's not on my property. It's on the neighbor's 2 farms down, I think. So, but they kind of got out and walked around, and so that was kind of fun. But even though the lady that I bought the farm from, I've kind of talked to her a few times about, did you have anything going on? She said no, but her employees that worked for her at the time, we've heard otherwise. We've heard that one of the farriers wouldn't work on horses in one barn because it kind of, gave off a bad vibe to him. Other people have seen stuff. I want to say one of her employees did see a black figure running down came the direction of the power line, actually. Funny you mentioned that. And kind of went through his yard. He did see that. And another friend of mine, a farrier friend, he managed the farm next door, but it was all part of this farm originally, and they had seen the mist and the figures too.
What about the property where the original print was seen in the racetrack?
Yeah, that's the one that they've seen the mist and the figures.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the one that they saw the figure running down, kind of running really fast through the yard, the black figure.
Now, is there any certain times of year or times of day when it seems like stuff happens more often?
As far as that goes, I want to say most of our activity is in the spring. And then it seems to kind of pick up again in the fall.
Huh.
Summers are pretty quiet.
I mean, that's also pretty similar to typical Bigfoot behavior.
Right.
Which is partly why all of this is so confusing.
Right.
Just when you think you find a pattern, then you see a giant UFO in the woods and a figure running out of it.
Right, and that was October, so that would have been the fall. So, and I know the pony's mane getting braided in the barn would have been the spring. We did have a horse get scratched up. We weren't 100% sure what caused that. Game and Fish actually came out and everything like that and looked at it. It was an expensive horse, and I think might have even been a pre-Olympic team horse. And so we had several veterinarians involved. And nobody really knew what caused this. She had scratches on her wither and on her neck. And it looked almost like maybe a possible bite mark too.
I mean, normally you would think like a cougar or something, but
right.
I wouldn't think they would go after a full-grown horse or anything.
Horse.
Yeah.
No, I don't think they're big like that down here. Yeah, so that was kind of, that was like the only time we ever had, and it was a mare. She was out with some geldings, so that was kind of, going back to the main breeding thing on the one mare, what y'all talked about before. Who knows,
Who knows?
But, I mean, maybe she said, you're not touching me.
Right.
So, yeah.
Did they have a guess or anything? What was their best guess as what caused it?
They had no idea. Game and Fish had no idea. They said, oh, she must have done it on wire. And I said, sir, I live in a very elite neighborhood, and we do not have barbed wire fences here. We have all wood fences. There is no barbed wire in this mayor's pasture anywhere. They went as far as to say, somebody must have left a rake out in the pasture. And I'm like, we never rake the pastures. There's been no rake left in the pasture that would have injured this mare. They had no answer for us.
That almost sounds like they did know the answer and just wanted to mislead you in a different direction.
Well, absolutely. 100%.
It sounds really ridiculous to suggest that you left a rake out in the pasture and that the horse injured itself on that.
That was like, could have been a rake, could have been the barbed wire. They said, well, you don't have big cats in the area. And I said, well, I kind of figured that, it wouldn't be a cat. But the fact that when the Game and Fish warden came out, he called his supervisor, and his supervisor came out to look as well, because the one guy was stumped.
Me too.
And they were both driving around the pasture and walking the fence lines and walking through the pasture, trying to kind of piece it together. And they didn't have any answers for me. So then I think ended up going to the state vet, and still no answers other than barbed wire or a rake.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So out of all the things that you've experienced, which one had the most impact on you personally?
Well, I would say the UFO in the woods and driving up and having that creature in the side yard there and not seeing it, being oblivious to it, but seeing it and knowing that it was there probably had the most impact, because now it's like I don't want to go outside at night at all.
And you were in a golf cart at the time?
Yes.
Did you hear any sounds or anything with the light?
No sounds whatsoever. Even when I turned the golf cart off and turned around, and when it was gone, nothing. It was completely silent.
And did you notice anything strange happening directly after that event?
No. But interesting enough, we've got a place in North Dakota, and here's another thing too. Could all of this be attracted to certain people? Because I did have a UFO experience in North Dakota. I was taking out our trash, and I had paranormal experiences in North Dakota too. So it just kind of makes you wonder, could some of this stuff be attracted to certain people? But I saw a UFO and completely silent, and it was big, and it was just hovering. And I'm like, what on earth? And so I've seen several UFOs, I guess, now at this point in time. So I don't know if that's coincidental or not.
UFOs are sort of out of my wheelhouse compared to
Mine
Bigfoot
too.
and the paranormal.
Mine too.
I've been trying to take the crash course over the past couple of years, and I know that people oftentimes believe that, just like with everything else, whether it be Bigfoot or the paranormal or UFOs, people can kind of be marked and they become visited all the time. And I also know that in the paranormal world, one of the more popular, newer theories is that some people, maybe they're the reason that it happens. There's this belief that certain people trigger it whenever they're in a location. And That's just one of the many factors that have to be in place. You know, you can go to like a haunted location and maybe one person doesn't experience anything, but if you have a different person that actually triggers the event, once they arrive, then stuff happens.
Right. Like your sensitives and your empaths and things like that.
You know, I grew up in a haunted location. The house I'm still in right now still has activity, not as much as it did whenever I was younger. The activity was happening here before I was born, however, so keep that in mind. But then I've experienced paranormal activity in lots of different locations. And I've experienced it in other houses that I've lived in, and then I've lived in some places where there wasn't anything going on and it felt completely different.
Right.
So I don't know. Honestly, my entire life growing up, interested in the paranormal, trying to learn about it, it never really clicked that it might be me somehow until like the past year, somebody brought it up and said, hey, maybe it's you.
Right.
So, I mean, maybe it's you.
Right. And I mean, and it could very well be, because I've had, you know, at our house in North Dakota, tons of paranormal activity up there. So when I got down here, the very first paranormal thing that happened was I was sitting in my living room and I heard something say, Kerry, like that. And it was in the kitchen. And I kind of looked and I thought, well, that was weird. But since I'd had so much other stuff happen, it didn't even faze me. I'm like, okay, whatever. You know, I just, it doesn't, you know, I mean, you just kind of become immune to it, I guess, unless it's something pretty major, like I'm going to get scratched or pushed down, which hasn't happened, knock on wood, you know. So like I said, it's been pretty benign.
Does any of the activity at the Florida location seem like the same stuff as the North Dakota location? Like, have you heard any of the same voices or the same words or anything like that?
No, none of the same stuff. Like, yeah, in North Dakota, it was like, where did my little handheld Yahtzee game go? I mean, I'd gone down to Texas, got a horse. I'd actually taken that with me, you know, and this was years ago. So it was fun to play that little thing. And because we didn't have cell phones back then to play on. And couldn't find it. And I thought, well, gosh, I swore I had it after my trip down to Texas. And looked all over for it, never could find it. So bought myself another one for Christmas. And it was, I kid you not, New Year's Day, we're sitting there. And I'm playing my game, and my husband reached down, because the remote was always kind of falling between the cushions. The other Yahtzee game was there.
Huh.
Yeah. And you know, just kind of more, I would almost say like poltergeist activity, where ha ha ha, you know, and just things. Well, I swear it was right there, and I'll leave and I'll come back, and it was on the table. It would be on the table, and I'm like, how many times did I walk by the table looking for that? And then Scott had gone hunting, and then one night, all of the cabinets on one side of the wall fell and were kind of propped up on the countertop, and no dishes broke. That was the dish cabinet and the glassware cabinet. Nothing broke. The guy that came out to fix it was like, how did this even happen? I'm like, I have no idea. So just, you know, kind of strange stuff like that. You know, I definitely heard voices there. I would catch glimpses of actual people. Here it's more, if I catch a glimpse, it's more of a shadow.
Yeah. The one in the bathroom is definitely a shadow.
Yeah. Yep. That's more of what I see here, is more shadows. So yeah, a little bit different. But it could be, you know, that was an old farmhouse, you know, prone to having some activity.
What did the UFO look like that you saw up there?
Okay, this is going to sound crazy. You know, your round, typical UFO shape. Around the center of it, the bottom was really flat. Around the center, there were was a row of lights, and they were red. But the bottom, as my eyes adjusted, because it was dark, either that or it just started maybe illuminating. But the bottom of the UFO looked like the Star Wars Death Star, with all the little carvings, I guess. It looked really carved out. And then so when I went online to try to find something that looked like that, the closest thing I found was some of the Close Encounters of the Third Kind advertisements and movie posters. The UFOs on those were really similar to the UFO I saw.
Huh.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah. It just, basically was saucer shaped and it was large.
How high up was it?
Oh my gosh, maybe it was low. It was pretty low because when I first saw it, I thought one of the oil trucks had come down into our barnyard by mistake and took the wrong road and ended up in the horse pasture. And my thought, I was cussing. I was like, how are we going to get you out of there? We're going to have to cut the fence down because you won't be able to turn around up there. And because I was seeing the red band of lights. And so I'm like, well, but now what's he doing? Because the lights kind of started going. Because I thought it was a oil truck with, how they'll have the pups attached to them because it looked long.
Yeah.
And I would say maybe, I would say 1,000 feet or less up.
Wow.
It was low and completely silent, like I said. I
mean, I just can't believe that we live in a time when the government's actively talking about it publicly. And I just read an article the other day about a group of employees out in Colorado seeing one during daylight hours. And it was like they all saw it. Kind of scary stuff to think about. Oh, it is. It is scary stuff, especially because that's something we didn't even touch on, especially when you start to think about what goes on in Dulce. Yeah. And all the underground bases and this and that. I mean, that just touches on a whole other realm of this. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if, take out all the theories and all the conjecture and stuff like that, the bottom line is lots of people are experiencing these things and have been forever. Exactly. Right. And it seems like they've been experiencing them since the beginning of time with Ezekiel saw the will. So it goes back centuries and I mean, now the government is just saying, oh yes, they do exist. Well, what does that mean? I mean, should we be concerned about this or, do they just kind of come down and do their own thing and leave? Are they taking people? I mean, what exactly is going on? Are they dropping creatures off like I saw? And I mean, do they pick these things back up or do they just go through a portal and return home? I mean, I don't know. Have you done anything to try and get rid of the spirits? We have not. I'm always like, well, I'm going to sage my house or do this or do that, other than maybe talking to people that on the phone, like, we put a veil of protection on your farm or this or that. I don't know if that ever worked. But as far as, trying to get them all off the property, no. And honestly, I don't know if that would work if spirits wander or do that. I don't think that you could fully ever get rid of them. So, I just don't know enough about the paranormal to know whether or not. I think what we're experiencing here is probably people were attached to the land. I guess that would be more of a residual haunting. So I don't think anything's demonic or wants to cause any trouble. I just think that they love the land and they loved it here. And it's beautiful. I get it. Well, if you hear any messages from me on your little ghost app, just let me know. I will do that. Oh my gosh, because it will sometimes say names. It will say my dog's names. It will say my hired man's name. It said my mother-in-law's name, and it's kind of crazy. But I'll definitely let you know. I'll probably maybe try it tonight and see if it says anything. If I get Bigfoot or anything like that. But it's never once said Dogman, though, so I think I'm pretty safe there. Let's keep it that way. Exactly, because those things scare me. Me too. I don't ever want to see one of those. No. I'm fine with the UFOs. I'd probably be fine with the Bigfoot, but those other things, no, thank you. And I do live in Florida, and there are creatures here. We've got people that swear they've seen the Dogman, people that swear that they've seen the Bigfoot. And you asked me if I'd ever seen one in person. Well, I haven't seen one, but there was a time that I was charged, like a bluff charge, over in the Gothi Forest. I was walking in there with a friend. We weren't even probably 700 feet from my car, and we started to hear wood knocks.
We heard 3 wood knocks, and I thought, oh, wow, that's crazy. And these wood knocks were so loud that it would actually, your insides would, vibrate. It was like, that is crazy. And then all of a sudden, whatever was doing the wood knocks must have decided to charge at us. It sounded big, being a horse person and a cattle person. I mean, it sounded like buffalo or something charging at us through the trees. And then all of a sudden it stopped and was completely quiet. And my friend was like, she was pretty freaked out. She was reaching for her pistol. And so, I guess if you ask me about experiences that I've had, that would have been one too that could have been, life-changing / altering, because it's like whatever it was huge. And it came charging at us. And then another thing I was thinking, the wood knock was so loud. We live in Florida. I mean, where are you going to find a branch that's not decaying that you can hit a tree with that hard that's not going to break? So I'm wondering if they don't hit these things with their hands.
Yeah, there's a lot of different theories out there about what they use exactly to make the sound.
Yeah.
I know I've heard some people talk about in mountainous areas and places that have more rock available, they'll use rocks instead of doing the tree knocks.
Okay.
And then, in areas where there's lots of hardwoods, it definitely sounds more like a wood on wood sound. But then, like you're saying, you also hear it in areas where there's not really anything available that you can think of. Like you said, the woods down there are very different than the woods here or up in the Pacific Northwest.
Exactly.
The volume of the sound, like you were saying,
exactly.
is just so loud that I don't know. I don't know how.
I don't know. I don't know how, and what was really interesting was that was knock, knock, knock. And then when everybody's getting their windows knocked on or their houses knocked on, it's always knock, knock, knock. It's always a set of 3.
Always a set of 3.
And I don't know why that is either.
So you've got some of your videos posted online on a YouTube channel?
Yeah. Yeah, it's private though, because I don't want people to think I've like completely lost my mind. But I do have some of those videos. If anybody wanted to maybe, I don't know, reach out or whatnot.
They can reach me and I can put them in touch with you or something.
Yeah, because I just didn't want everybody just being able to go and look at them, So, I mean, I'm still trying to run a business and I don't want people to be like, oh, we don't want to have our horses there. It's haunted, or we can't stay there. It's haunted. Like I have friends that won't even stay in that bedroom now. They stay in another bedroom because they don't want to stay there.
Kerry, I appreciate you coming on here and sharing the stories, and like I said, keep me posted, and I'm glad we finally got to sit down and do this.
Oh, I am too. It was really good talking to you too.
And if you're having your own Bigfoot or paranormal experiences, send me an email at bigfootcrossroads@gmail.com. Check out the website, bigfootcrossroads.com. You can find links to social media, past episodes, everything you need, all in one place. And until next time, remember, there's something in the woods.